why did I choose Scrum? Not just for that product or project I was working on, but as in, why am I where I am today in terms of being a professional Scrum trainer, a Scrum coach, an Agile coach, a consultant for people trying to do this Agile thing, often using Scrum. There's other methods out there. I use them too, like Kanban. I've used extreme programming. I've even used scaling approaches. None of which are great, but they're usually better than nothing. Trust me, I've tried. But how did I get here? Well, it actually started with me being a project manager. As some of you might have seen from previous videos. I was a project manager, and I got to being a project manager by, quite frankly, being a pain in the ass. I saw stuff I didn't like in the business I was working in, and I figured out ways to make them better. Then I was permissioned to make them better, sometimes, and then I went and made them better. And then I kept doing that, and then I figured out that, oh wait, I've got these things called KPIs, and they say I need to get to 100% for my contract to get paid. And so, okay, I got to 100%, I figured out a way of doing that easily, and now it's, well, I've got half the day left. What do you want me to do with the rest of my time? Because contractually I've fulfilled my obligations, and I was permissioned to do more little projects to improve other things and automate things. And over time, I found people who were doing this thing called project management, and I worked with them, and I became a project manager, and I loved it. I thought that was where I belonged. And when I was a project manager, I made sure to read all about Prince 2 and Lean and Six Sigma. I was practicing to become a Six Sigma black belt. Lots of numbers, far too many numbers for my taste, but it's useful. PMP, all of that fun stuff. And also this fun little thing called Agile. It was this, the little newcomer to the stage. We didn't take it too seriously, but it was there. People were talking about it, and because I was a new kid on the block, or rather in the team, I had the privilege of learning about it. And because of my style, they put me on working on certain projects where we were doing automation and fixing things. And before we knew it, that automation stuff was generating enough value that they decided to make it its own organization, separate from the project organization. As is tradition in a large corporation, we were then reorged into a new organization. And the new VP for that organization said, hey, I've heard of this Agile thing. We're going to be an Agile organization. Pick your poison. And they present me with the option. Literally, I sat down with my director and said, you can be a product owner or a Scrum Master. And I looked at it and I realized, hang on a minute, this product owner thing, this is what I've been doing word for word, pretty much, just minus the product owner title for the last 2 years. So let's try something different. The Scrum Master thing, that sounds fun. Servant leader. Cool, I get to push people around. I learned better eventually, but I was a terrible Scrum Master for a good year at least. As is also tradition when you get into this stuff. So that's how I got into Agile. I was reorganized into it. And that's honestly how a lot of people start. They are reorganized by an organization and told to be Agile. By the way, you're now a Scrum Master, developer, product owner, what have you. So I tried to be a Scrum Master. And I was a terrible one, as I said, for about a year. About 6 months into that year, I was sent to a training course. And that was probably the most impactful training course that I've ever been to. It was with a fantastic trainer and thought leader in the field called Henrik Nyberg. And it was actually for advanced Scrum Master. And I remember emailing him beforehand and saying, hey, are you sure I can get in here? I've never really done this stuff. I'm new to it. I'm certainly not advanced, but you're the only course I can see that seems to fit my needs. Can I join anyway? And he said, you know what? Absolutely. And if there's anything that doesn't make sense to you as we're doing it, let's have a chat during breaks or after the class. And that's what we did. And I must have annoyed the shit out of him, but he was very cordial about it. He never told me to bugger off. And he answered all my questions during the breaks and during the class. And I was putting my hands up all the time, not understanding stuff. And he said, hey, by the way, have you read the Scrum Guide? And I said, the what now? And he mentioned this thing called the Scrum Guide, which actually codifies what Scrum actually is. It only took me 6 and a bit months before I learned about this Scrum Guide thing. And that night, between day 1 and day 2 of the course, I read the Scrum Guide 3 times. And I came back the second day with even more questions to bother me about. But once again, he was very cordial, and it was a very life-changing course, because what I learned in that Scrum course was the way Scrum works, the way he was saying that this should all come together. It's exactly the way I'd been working without realizing it until then. Because guess what? Yes, I learned about Prince 2 and PMP, but I always find them so stifling, so unnecessarily structured, and too many handovers. So I never really followed the rules for them. I tended to do things my own way anyway, which turns out was very close to this short feedback loop and putting the people and the doers together to just figure it out themselves instead of all these handovers between them. And then there was this thing called Scrum, which ticked all those boxes. So that's what I decided to do. I went on to do more Scrum, and then I started hearing about how much my dear colleagues doing Scrum in the US was being paid. And yes, indeed, money was involved in the rest of my career. And I realized, hang on a minute, I am severely underpaid here by about half what I should be getting. So I brought that to my bosses and I said, you're not paying me enough compared to what I should be paid. I'd like a new contract that's paying me enough, or I will probably look somewhere else. But I don't want to because I loved that team. I still do. I still am, in fact, in touch with a lot of those people because they were very dear to me. But I have a principle of I know my worth, and if you don't pay me my worth, the market will. So they looked around and they offered me, 10% of what I asked for. So I said, well, in that case, I'm going to have to go. And that's what I did. And I found myself moving on to the next place where they asked me to be a Scrum Master for another team. And I took that on as a Scrum Master for that other team. And they were working in a scaled environment. This was my first time working in a scaled environment. And it took about 3 months before they then promoted me to lead Scrum Master for 20 engineering teams in that scaled environment. And at that point, I started thinking, oh, I must really know what I'm doing. I must be hot shit. This is great. And once again, I realized, hang on a minute, you promoted me from Scrum Master to lead Scrum Master, but I didn't get any more money for that. So once again, I'm going to have to ask you to change my contract to reflect my new duties. And once again, sadly, they couldn't follow up. So I decided, you know what, if this is going to be the world I live in as an employee, why don't I go and form my own business and do contracting instead? And that's what I did. And that is when I met the wonderful Simon Reindl. He was my first contract. He's a dear colleague. He's one of the first people to inspire me and suggest to me to actually become a professional Scrum trainer. So he saw that I had some potential and I joined a gig, and they quickly taught me that I knew nothing. Okay, fair enough, humbling, painful, and they hit me over the head many times, so to speak, with all the things I got wrong and what is in fact correct, and really mentored me and guided me on my journey. And with their help, I went from a terrible to good to very good Scrum Master. I dare say excellent Scrum Master that eventually became a Scrum trainer with Scrum.org. And throughout all of that, again, I tried Kanban, I've tried extreme programming, I've tried a few different things along the way. The thing I keep coming back to is Scrum. And the reason for that is Scrum is great because it gives you just enough to get you going. It's not going to be the right solution for everyone, but it's enough guidelines, enough guardrails to get you started and to help you figure out if it works for you. And if it does, fantastic, keep improving with it, but also enough to figure out where it hurts and where it might not work for you and where you might need to tweak Scrum, sometimes making it not Scrum, but better suited to your context. And those are the lessons I got to learn along the way as well, where, okay, I tried to use Scrum here, this is why it didn't work. And I can now use those lessons, that learning, to identify that for other clients, for other teams going forward, to save them a lot of headaches and heartaches along the way, because I've already made all the mistakes at least twice on their behalf. And that's why I keep coming back to Scrum, because it's just enough. Some of it is just happenstance. Some of it is, well, just wanting my money's worth for my time compared to the market. And the second is realizing that, hey, Scrum is just a good fit. It's just that good Goldilocks fit for most places. And it helps you identify if it's going to get you to where you want to go, or point out where you need to change to then get you to where you want to go. That's why I really like Scrum. It's pretty great. That's why I do it. That's why I'm the Scrum coach, Scrum trainer, and me. All right. Thank you very much for watching. And if you like what you saw and you want to hear more about what I've got to say in the future on similar questions, or if you have a question yourself, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me. You can also email me at oscar.styf@pragmaticshift.com. Please do like the video, share it with others if you think they might benefit from it, or follow my profile to see stuff as they come out as well. And I would love to be your Scrum trainer. So please find my content on pragmaticshift.com. You can find the courses I've scheduled for the year, or on scrum.org.com as well. Look forward to seeing you in my classroom soon.